Welcome to the No Name Brand Podcast. My name is Sashka Hanarappel, actress, singer, dancer, turned brand marketing, sales, and advertising strategist who brands your soul. And each week I bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover your undergod. Turn up your leadership notches, challenge the status quo, because you're fast and furious with a powerful message to share with the world. Thank you for taking time out with me today, and without further ado, let's get our creative and wisdom juices flowing. Well, howdy doody there, folks. We're back with this week's No Name Brand Podcast with moi, your host, Sashka Hanarappel, coming to you live from Austria. Thank you to every single one of those listeners who've been tuning in every week and dropping us love notes, letting us know how much you're enjoying the show. Guys, this means so much. Please keep them coming. Now, the No Name Brand Podcast has this vision to interview movers and shakers all over the world who are leading with their purpose and working their passion. And today, oh my God, this is going to be a fun one. Now, how many of you are familiar with the movie The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner? And yeah, you remember that one? Yeah, that movie. Well, today we have our very own bodyguard on the show. To be precise, a decorate combat veteran, bodyguard for rock stars, runs international organizations for celebrities, managed musicians and sports personalities, and now he's turning failing businesses into successes across Europe and the US of A. But despite his rock star credentials and impressive accomplishments, oh yes, our next guest is a lot like Sid the Sloth in Animation Ice Age, because he's not only a grounded dude who just loves leading with the power of intuition and conscious leadership, but he sees the good in everything and keeps it simple. My kind of guy. So let's welcome our next guest with some delicious good vibes. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Steven Kuhn. Hello, Steven.
Hey. Hello, it's Sid the Sloth, huh?
Oh my God, you can do the accent as well. That's so freaking cool.
Of course, I have two kids. I play Sid the Sloth all the time.
That is so freaking cool. I love that. Damn,
oh, wow.
Man. It's such a cool animation as well. Me animations. Love it.
Love it.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Awesome. Really impressive interview. It's probably the first time I've ever been introduced like that. So thank you very much.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure, sir. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
No problem. So tell us, Steven.
Yes.
You're a leader in your field. What is that field, and why do you believe that you're a leader in it?
Well, if I have to tell you I'm a leader, I'm probably not, or I'm not sure that I am. So it sort of happens. So when people start following you and asking you for advice, and then you get paid for that advice, and then you get put on stage for that advice, and you start talking to world leaders, politicians, business leaders, stars, rock and roll people, it just sort of ends up like, okay, what I'm saying is resonating with some, and they make you a leader in that industry. So I never said, hey, look at me, I'm an influencer or I'm a leader. It just sort of happened that way. And the way it happened is I live my life very strictly to a code of rules, principles called H.I.T. That means honesty, integrity, and transparency. Now, if I'm honest with myself and I'm transparent with every decision I make with myself, the byproduct of that is integrity. When I'm honest and transparent with myself and the integrity comes to shine, that automatically rubs off on everything and everyone around me. And that makes me authentic. And that authenticity allows me to live and be without dealing with other people's expectations. So even my wife, when I give her something, I have no expectation that she'll give me something back. When I give her a compliment, I don't expect her to say, I love you too. I don't expect that. Whatever happens in my life, I'm always happy because I don't expect it. And that's the key for me to living the life, like you said, always happy, positive things. Because when you have no expectations and you give because you want to give and you live because you want to live, life is amazing. Mm-hmm. And when people see that, they levitate towards you. Now, what I do to make it even more intensive is I love seeing people happy. So I elevate everyone around me. So when you're with me, you work with me, you go somewhere with me, you feel fantastic because I'm always putting you in the middle point. What's the word? In Focus, the limelight. Yeah. In the limelight, yes. So I play myself down and I play you up. That's pretty much how I live my life. And so that makes people want to be with you. And that made when I met Bill Clinton or when I met Steven Tyler or Pamela Anderson or Andrea Bocelli, they want to be with you. And so I worked for these people. They literally just said, I want to work for you. And they're like, why? I said, because I want to work with you. And they said, okay, Steven, I have no idea what you're going to do, but let's do it. And yeah. And the only one that I actually had a real job with was Mick Jagger. I was his bodyguard. But like Olivia Newton-John, I rolled her company out in 7 countries. Andrea Bocelli, I managed one of his opening bands and did contract negotiations with all the big record labels, which I had never done in my entire life until that day. And just did it. Yeah. Just do it. Take life on.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself. Yeah.
That's what I also kind of preach as well, is that leadership, it's got nothing to do with your vocation, your talents, or your gifts. It's all about that key that you hold that people believe they don't have.
Yeah.
And they see it within you. And you're just living. You're just doing your life. You're just moving on. Have you read the book, 5 Languages of Love?
I have read it a long time ago, but I read it, yeah. Don't ask me to quote it.
Because whilst you were busy talking and you were saying how you put other people in the limelight, and when you give something you don't expect anything back, I never know if I say his name properly, Mo Gawdat, he speaks about happiness. Like his main thing is about how the equation of happiness, and that it's all in a nutshell has to do with expectations. The more expectations you have, the less happy you'll be.
Yep.
The less expectations you have, the happier you'll be. And that is so cool. And the languages of love, it's got to do with that as well. It's just like if you don't expect anything, what is it? Is it gifts or whatever those languages are? I've forgotten it. I read it such a long time ago. And I love your answer because it's so obviously through experience, compact, and you know exactly where it's going with it. And leadership doesn't come with the title or how famous you are. It just kind of gets put on you because it's like, you're doing what the hell you want to do with your life and you're happy doing it.
Yeah. And can I tell you what the effects of that are? So external effect, which I guess it didn't surprise me, but it was astonishing how quick it happened. So I left my offline job, which I was a turnaround consultant and startup consultant, my own company, one-man show, and I traveled the world. So I was in 9 countries every month or every 2 months, and every Monday to Thursday.
9 countries?
Yeah. So I had contracts all over. So it's all Europe, maybe sometimes America, but it's all European countries. So
all right. Okay. So it's easier to do.
Yeah. Because, I can go to 3 countries in one day here or 4 countries in one day.
Yeah, that's right.
I came home one time after 20 years of working 4 days a week in another country. I came home and my son, who is turning 4, spoke perfect English, which I thought he could, but I never knew that he could speak to me in that sort of intellectual tone. And I said, when did this happen?
Oh.
So I said, love, I told my queen, I said, baby, I'm done. I'm not traveling anymore. As of right now, I'm done. And she's like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm done. So I called all my clients. I said, you have 2 choices. We quit this contract, or I take over online. So 90% of them said, thanks, Steve. We really love it, but we need someone here. I said, okay, see you later. So I lost about 95% of my income.
Wow.
Which is okay. And I said, okay, what am I going to do now? And I said, well, since I'm a veteran, I never really dove into the online veteran world because it's all a bunch of guys that are just talking about the old days and are all depressed and talking about PTSD and stuff. I don't want to deal with that, right? I've dealt with my PTSD through my book, and I've dealt with it through meditation and through my time in the monastery. So I went back in and said, I'm going to go back in. I'm going to help these guys build their businesses. So I literally, in August of this past year, I joined a group called Vetpreneur Tribe, Veteran Entrepreneurs, on Facebook, 3,000 people. There's now 13,000 people in that group. And I've consulted probably 500 of them. Wow. And 20 of them have companies that went from 0 to 100 with my consulting. And now I'm the number 2 military entrepreneur influencer in all of America from an independent website. And I was like, I did that in 6 months. I didn't even do anything. I just literally, like you said, I live HIT. I actually have 4 principles in which I practice every day. That's body, mind, relationships, and business. So my body, every single day, I train and eat right. I do something for my body, inside and outside. And then in my mind, I learn and have spirituality every day. So I meditate every day and I learn something. So I read something, listen to something like that. When it comes to relationship, I have a conscious connection with my queen every single day, and with my children, my prince and princess, every single day. We have sort of a connection. We do a little bit of meditation. They don't know it's meditation, but we do a little bit of meditation. And of course, business is leadership and revenue. So by 10 o'clock in the morning every day, I'm done with all of those 3 areas. All I have left is business. And so this is how I'm balanced. So when I preach this and literally HIT, and those 4 principles, that's how I live my life. So I went in veteran community and suddenly there's order. And these guys are like, my God, my life has changed, Stephen. It's changed just because of no expectations, like you said. That's the biggest hit, no expectations for the guys and their relationships and the women in their relationships. Yeah. And so within 6 months, I went from not having a job to being the number 2 military influence in America. And now I'm invited for keynote speeches all over America within 6 months. And I didn't even have a mission to do that. It's because of, like you said, when you give up trying and you just are, amazing things happen. I wish I knew this 20 years ago.
I was just about to get to that, because the thing is, listeners that are listening, they're going, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm aspiring to. Just that plane of, just being. And in order to get to that place of just being, my beliefs are that you need to go through a process and a journey. I mean, we're not given challenges and being thrown into the deep end for nothing. And some of us have it harder than others. But it doesn't mean that we need to be excluded from a lot of things.
Right.
And there is your soul group, and there are people that can help and pick you up, like you have picked up those veterans in this Facebook group. Where were you before this time, like 20 years ago that you said? And what space were you? And the journey, obviously, that you've come across here. And if you were to give the advice to do the HIT and the 4 principles, where in the business stage or life stage, because they're intertwined, where should you think about implementing this plan, putting it into action?
Right.
Obviously planning it, but putting it into action.
Okay. Well, in my journey 20 years ago, you got to realize I've been in Germany for 23 years as a civilian. So 23 years ago, I was married to another woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a place where PTSD was ruling my life. So I'm an Iraq war veteran, so I had major issues. And that meant I was macho on the outside and just like a little baby on the inside. Wounded and hurt and tender, and just I couldn't deal with life. So what do? You put your armor on. And me as a warrior, I'm a big guy. So I'm like 125 kilos and 193. So I can't be soft. I have to be hard, right? And that, of course, reflected on my marriage. It reflected on everything that I did, on the career that I had as well. I was in the health club industry, of course, because what do? You lift weights and you're a big guy. So that's where I was. And it was okay for a while, and I thought I could pound through it. And then in 2002, I lost everything. So my ex-wife cheated on me, and while she was cheating on me, she had an accident, broke her back at the same time, which I don't know. And then at the same time, the company that I was working for, Health and Racket Club company spinoff, closed in Europe, and they said, you're done. And I had just signed a new contract, so I had no severance pay or anything. And then, of course, at the same time, I had a company with my brother in America, and that crashed as well. So I lost everything, literally everything. So what do you do when you lose everything? Write a book. So I got time now, right? So I wrote a book in German, actually.
Oh, wow.
And it came out. I wrote it in 5 days, and it was about my experience in the Gulf War. And what it was me purging. So it wasn't like we went over phase line Delta and we saw the enemy. It was more like I went to war thinking I was going to prove to myself what kind of a man I was. And I found out that I wasn't a man at all. I was a shell, and that I was programmed. And the belief that I had was put into me. It wasn't coming from the inside out, it was coming from the outside in. And these are the things that I learned while I was in Iraq, and I couldn't deal with it because it's like, this can't be true. So when I started writing the book, it just came out in 5 days, and it was incredible. It was like I was reborn. So I brought it to a publisher, and 2 weeks later, it was a bestseller. And I spent a year on the road.
What? It was a bestseller?
Yeah.
Holy moly. Okay, cool.
Within 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
And so I was on every TV show, even in Austria, every TV show, every newspaper, every magazine, I was a DJ, a VJ on MTV. I was guest VJ, a guest or a moderator on every single news station. For a year, I did a book tour and was on TV every day.
Was this from the publisher? Like, how do people get to know you?
No, because the book came out and it just went bananas. Because it came out, I got to tell you this, it came out the day the Iraq War started in 2003. Oh. It came out that very day. So the newspaper, they put an article in the newspaper, Sergeant Kuhn's Private War, about the war inside of me. And on the front page was War in Iraq. So War in Iraq, opened the third page right there, boop, Sergeant Kuhn's Private War, right over. I mean, the next day I had calls from the #1 talk shows in Germany, and they flew me up to Hamburg. Yeah, it was just crazy from then. I was sitting next to Peter Ustinov and the British ambassador and the American ambassador and Shirley Bassey. I don't know what the hell she was doing there. And, and just Peter Maffei and all these people I'm just sitting next to. And they're looking at me like I have all the answers because I was the guy who was in a war and I speak German like a German. So I was very fortunate. And what that did is it allowed me and it forced me, and this is where it all started when you say when did it start. So I'm sitting on Johannes Buchanan, which is the #1 talk show in Germany at the time. And they're asking me questions that I've never asked myself before. And I have to be on. I said to myself, I'm in the public eye. Everything I say is recorded forever. So I better be brutally honest about it. And I was. And it was the first. I had tears in my eyes on these shows because I couldn't believe that I was saying these things that I was saying because I never thought that I could. And that's when HIT started. I didn't know it at the time. I called it consciousness. And then I called it conscious self-leadership. Then I called it conscious leadership. And it always boiled down to honesty, integrity, transparency. It always boiled down to that. Because if I'm honest to myself and transparent why I'm doing what I'm doing, then it's sort of, like I said, the byproduct is integrity. And people love integrity. Every relationship we have, every single one, private or business or personal, whatever it is, every healthy one is based on integrity. Without integrity, you have no relationship.
Yes.
And so that's when it all started. And when I left a year later, I got a job offer from the same company that had closed down, that reopened. And I joined for 2 years and it was too much. So I left again. Yeah. And I lost everything again because I had a company in the States with my brother again, twin brother. And that was when the mortgage industry crashed and we had a mortgage charter. Yeah. So I lost everything again. I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm done. And called my friend Michael Wagner in Austria. And I said, if you don't come and get me, I'm going to blow my head off. And I was dead serious. I said, I'm done. I'm so freaking done. How can I lose this stuff all the time? I'm spiritual. I'm in the place I'm supposed to be. I have gratitude. I'm thankful. What the hell's going on? You know, like with an attitude like, I'm grateful. Damn it. You know?
Why isn't this law on
Yeah,
attraction
exactly.
and secret coming towards me?
Exactly. I even did a video. I was because The Secret. There's a video that came out afterwards called Beyond the Secret. I'm in that.
Oh my God.
And it still didn't work. And I was like, I even was in the movie and it didn't work. It was hilarious. Anyway, so I called Michael. I said, dude, get me out of here. So what he did is he said, stand by. And he got me an airplane ticket like 30 minutes later in my email. And I went to the airport, flew to Vienna. He had a friend who picked me up because he was going to pick me up, but he fell off a horse, his black stallion, and broke like 6 ribs. So,
oh my God.
And so his friend dropped me off and said, here. And I said, where am I? He goes, this is the monastery, H.I.T. And I was like, what am I going to do here? He goes, I don't know. Michael just told me to drop you off. So I walk in, I'm like, hello? And they're like, oh, Mr. Kuhn, how are you? I'm Father Andrash. I was like, okay. He goes, yeah, your room's down here. I'm like, what am I doing here? He goes, what do you mean? You're just going to spend some time. And I spent, I think, about 4 months there. I can't remember because it was like a blur to me.
Wow.
And I just shut my mouth and I just listened and I observed myself. And then after that, Michael came pick me up. And we had a big hug, a bromance moment. And we went up to the mountains. And that's where I stayed for even longer. And I just stayed with me. And I literally would meditate. I would close my eyes and open them up. It was like 6 hours gone. That's how centered I was, to the exact opposite extreme. I was one with the earth. I'd literally wake up or open my eyes for meditating. There's a deer touching my leg.
Oh my God.
That's how like zen I was. You know?
Oh my God.
And I thought, okay, this is amazing, but what am I going to do? What am I going to do with all this? Yeah, I went back to Berlin after a while, and I opened up a little in my apartment. I opened up a little, what do you want to call it, therapy session place where people would come in. We just talk, and I would sort of make them feel good about whatever.
Good psychology is coming to you live on my couch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I had it hooked up too. It was really beautiful. I had like all kinds of Zen stuff. But
hang on, backtrack. Yeah. So what was that missing link?
The missing link was the true humility. Was letting it all go and like just saying, you know what, I have to be, and I don't like the word being able to be wounded, vulnerable. Vulnerable is emotional, right? And I'm talking about wounded, like really wounded, like physically.
And was that from your past? Like, was it something that you had to let go of, like with parents or, okay.
Everything. It was, well, I was growing up, we had, I don't know, my mom was married a few times and we moved around a lot. And, you know, one stepfather stuck a gun in my mouth and all that. But I don't like blaming my past on my future. But obviously it plays a role. And the reason I'm such a hard driver, and I have a twin brother who's exactly the same, and he wasn't in the military, is because we always looked for that love. We looked for recognition from the stepfathers, from the boyfriends, from my mother, because she was always in a new relationship. So that sort of kept her focus there. And my mom's like the strongest person I've ever met. So I think she's like balls, you know, she's like, boom, you know, I love her. So I never judged her for that, ever. I thought it was cool what she was doing. And if she has to find happiness and go through what she goes through, then that's what happens. And at a young age, I was like, man, let her do it. She's my mom. She's my mom. Do what she wants. But I think letting go of me as what I thought I should be or what society thinks I should be. Like we talked about expectations. At the time, I didn't know it was expectations, but that's what it was. You're trained to think a certain way. And then when you grow up or you get older, you're trained and that's all programming. And then suddenly you're standing there and going like, I'm not this or that. I don't want to be this. Because I was a corporate manager making a lot of money. And I'm sitting there because I don't want any of that. What am I doing that for? I'm not even happy. And then I started over. So that's when I had an offer to come to Budapest. And I said, look, I don't want to work for you guys anymore. I'm done with the corporate world because I was self-employed, but I was working in the corporate company. And they said, look, it's in Budapest. And they said, we only need you for 3 months. I said, okay, because something in me and my intuition said, go. And I also knew that the heart chakra of Europe was right outside of Budapest. So for that, they have bonfires here every year, like huge fires every year celebrating the heart chakra of Europe.
When?
I think it's in March every year.
Oh, damn, I missed it. It's the sun of me. Oh, okay.
So I was like, yeah, I'm going to come. So I came and I took over a company to turn it around. And I talked about this before the show, is I walked into my first day in Hungary, the first day in the new business. The first person I saw is my wife that I have right now. And we've been together for 9 years.
Wow.
So for me, when I walked in there, I said, my God, I'm done. This is her. This is her. This is my wife. This is my new life, actually. And what I did when I came to Budapest is I left everything behind. Because what I'm not telling you is a big part of my life was working with, living with, dealing with high society. So one of my girlfriends was the highest royal in Germany. So I got invited to Prince Harry's 18th birthday party. I had every gala for UNESCO, UN, the German, everything. So that was a part that you get dragged into and you don't want to let go because you're in the newspaper every day. So like the gala magazine in the back, the society pages every day, I got my picture in there with her. And that does horribly amazing things to your ego, right? And I left everything behind. So I'm like a nobody here. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And when I go back to, I love it. When I go back to Berlin, I land in the airport. Hey, Steven. Hey, Steven. That's how crazy it is. I went there with my wife one time. She goes, this is horrible. I don't want this. Because I can't even spend time with you. Yeah, because I'm walking down the street. Hey, Steve. Horns. And it's like, it's crazy. In Berlin, I also had discos and cocktail bars and health clubs. So you see people in their worst. So you see them drunk and naked in the sauna. It's like, so they sort of remember you. So yeah, and so I have thousands and thousands of people, plus my books, plus my TV, plus all that kind of stuff. And I still do TV, so in German. So I did the inauguration and the election night on German TV. So I live an incognito life here, and it allows me to stay grounded and focused. And if I want that life, or I want to go in it, I go back, I visit it, and I'm still Steven, the grounded HIT professional, and I come back here, and it doesn't bother me. But if I have to live there full time, that's taking me out of my core. So you asked, how do I implement HIT? HIT is not something you implement to the outside. You implement it to the inside. So you implement it first with yourself. If you can be honest to yourself why you do everything that you do and be transparent about it with yourself. Not like, I need money, so I'm going to take that contract, or I'm going to sell this thing even though it's not mine, or whatever. Those little things that you think nobody notices, they might not notice, but your soul notices. And when your soul notices, it will never allow you to heal completely. Because you're like, look, you want to heal. Like I said, I'm being grateful. What's going on? You want to heal, and you think you're there, and you take the Reiki classes, and you get the Reiki certification, and then you get another certification to be a healer. And you're like, why am I not grounded? Because you're not completely letting go, and you're not being honest with yourself and transparent with your decision, period. And when, you know what kind of a feeling it is to be able to turn down money? I had a job offer in Australia. I turned it down last week. They sent me a contract for 400,000 Australian dollars to sign, just to sign. I spoke to the guys, and I listened to them and stuff, and something wasn't right. So instead of trying to find out what wasn't right, I just said no. And they're like, what? And I felt so powerful, like a humble power, that I said, yeah, my principal will not allow me to sign it because there's something not kosher with you guys. I didn't say it to them, but saying to myself, there's something not kosher. So I won't even go down that road. My intuition is saying no. So I won't do it. 400 grand, turned it down. I could use that 400 grand.
Yeah, many of us could. When did you start bringing in intuition into your life and business? When did that start being really predominant?
I think in the monasteries when I learned my intuition. I learned it like no other. And the way it showed itself, and it was like, okay, I have to go to the chapel or whatever. I have to go. It was a Benedictine monastery. So they meditate, they chant, and they pray. And so they have like ceremonies all day long. Right? It's like, you give it a break, you know. So I used to go to the chanting early in the morning at 5:45. And then my intuition would say, you need to sleep, man. And before I'd be like, I'm just tired. My intuition was like, no, you need to sleep. You're not well. You need to sleep. And I'm thinking, okay, am I being lazy? I'm like, no. I said, you know what? I'm just going to listen. I'm just going to listen. So I started training it. So I started training my intuition. So I'm walking down the street in this little village of Zeitenstetten. And for some reason, I'm supposed to turn right. I have no idea that there's like this thing, turn right. So I just turn right. I don't have no idea why, but I didn't question it. Right? So walking down here, I meet this woman, right? Just standing there. Turns out she has a gym. So after 10 minutes, I'm in the gym and I'm working out for free. So it's like right across the street. That stuff happens. So it's like my intuition told me, you're here, you're relaxing, but you still need to train. Right? Here's your opportunity. If I wouldn't have turned right, it would have never happened. And that's when it hit me. I said, my God, man, that's amazing. Like if you really listen to your intuition, you can't go wrong. Okay, it's not always immediate. It's not always like, oh, like the angels every 5 minutes, but it really does happen.
And who do you want to attract to spread your message? You get offered a lot of keynote propositions and contracts, and that has a lot to do with the intuition, but there's also, like you said, the integrity where it's like, this isn't what I want to be known for.
I was never asked that question like that, but I was talking to someone last night about it because she's in the beginning of her journey. And she uses I do 3 lives every night on Facebook. So I have 3 groups. One's a Vetpreneur Tribe. One is my group called Steven Kuhn's Immediate Impact. It's a business group. And the other one's called The Humble Man. Cool. It's all about those 4 core areas. It's about HIT. It's about staying the humble man and working with your queen to make sure she's happy. And that's, this kind of stuff. And she asked me, she said, well, what's the way? How do I say yes and how do I say no? And I figured out, well, first of all, it dawned on me when the book The Secret came out, right? What they did is they took esoteric spirituality and made it palatable for everyday man. So they did a crossover, right? So they exposed, I would say, billions of people to something they never would have seen from someone who's trying to teach it wearing a gown and a big crystal around their neck, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like because of the past I have and where I work and how I work with people, that I'm the guy on both sides of the stream. So I have 1 foot on each side of the river and I'm the ferryman. That's what it feels like. I feel like I'm bringing people into this world while not speaking their language. I help people. I have friends who are healers or Reiki, and they don't know how to run a business. I show them this side, and I show them how to run a business. I feel like that's my calling, is sort of that ferryman. And so that's what I try to attract. So if I can stand in front of 5,000 veterans and talk about HIT and then always show a little bit of spirituality in there, I feel like I'm doing my job. I feel like that's amazing. And when I can go to a Hungarian-German seminar and it's got, I think, 2,000 people there, who are all sort of super spiritual. Felt like I was in like a cult or something. And I could talk about HIT and they're like, wow. Then I know I'm crossed over. I'm doing both. And it's just amazing. And so if I can be that ferryman, I just, woof, man, it's amazing.
That's the thing. Like I was just speaking to, well, not just speaking to, doing Facebook ads. And I was speaking to my team and I was saying, that's my USP, is that so many people that are in corporate, but they're feeling that they want that crossover. It's almost like coming out of the closet and they don't know how, because it's like I want to be that rational side, but on the other hand, I want that spiritual side as well, and trying to bring the two together. And there's a huge movement happening. Like it's not new, but it is a huge upheaval coming.
Well, it's more accepted now.
Yeah.
Because of things like The Secret, it just keeps going on and on and on. But you're right. And why don't they want to do it? Why don't they just jump in and do it? Because of other people's expectations of how they think they should be.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly why they don't do it. Yeah. I'm a corporate manager. I could never do that. You know what I did in this company? When I came to Budapest and they had me join this corporation, it wasn't 3 months. I ended up staying 5 years. The reason I stayed 5 years is because I started a whole new program in that company, and it was called Credo. So basically, every day we'd work, and it was all based on spirituality. So it was all based on love for another. This is a corporate company. And they're like, what? I said, just chill with me. Just die with me. And I had the lowest turnover of any company I've ever had, anywhere I've ever heard of. In 5 years, I lost like 2 people. And that's because I got paid more. And what it was is every day we had a meeting at 2:00 called the huddle. Everyone had like a minute and a half to present their numbers between the last meeting and this meeting, what they're going to do between this meeting and the next meeting, and what the action plan is. And then I would take over and we'd do a credo moment. So in the beginning, I did the credo. So we came up with our own Tai Chi moves. We came up with our own Qigong moves. We came up with our own mantra. I inspire myself, I inspire my team, I inspire my members, and I inspire the world around me. This is how I live my life every single day. And then we would go out and say, okay, go out in the street and just talk to a stranger and tell them something great. And this is the kind of stuff we did every single day. It transformed my one location. Now there's 87 locations in Europe. I did one location. Within 5 years, I had all 87 locations in doing the same thing. So this whole company turned into this spiritual being. It just changed their culture, and it made it a place to want to work. And then I was done. I was like, okay, I'm done. So yeah, that's how for me the corporate world looks. So if you're pure of heart and you actually live by your intuition and you have no expectations, not only to receive but to give, amazing things can happen because you do what you do because you do it. No one's basically like this. This is what I would do as a normal guy with expectations. I say, okay, I'm going to set this in place and they better pay me for this. Or if they want me to go there, they better pay me for that. Or look what I'm doing. That kind of, none of it. I'm just doing it because it's right.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because it feels right. And everything else spread by itself.
We're coming near the end. Well, I've got 3 more questions, but one question and 2 of them are what I ask all my guests near the end. But one of them is, you've got heaps of business and heaps of turnarounds. Just give us a quick rundown, because we haven't even gone through that, like a quick rundown, just name them, of all the businesses that you've turned around, what you're running, what you're not running. Let's go.
Okay, so I've done apothecaries, pharmacies, chiropractors' offices, hotels, health club chains, electric companies, tourist companies, power grid companies, just more and more and more and more, just goes on and on. Network marketing companies I've turned around and I've started. I've founded companies in different countries. I've I've taken corporations from America and brought them to Europe and made them into corporations in Europe. Just out of gaming companies, you name it, I've done it. It's all based on one thing, and that's people.
Yeah. What's really cool about Steve, first of all, the listeners can't see you. So you got to imagine him kind of like the Tooth Fairy, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson type of thing, kind of look alike. So just kind of like imagine something like that mixed with a little bit of Lewis Howes happening and everything. So just from a visual perspective. And also you mentioned something that people are afraid to give. But actually, I believe it's the other way around. We give a lot, but we don't know how to receive. Because lately, the last 3 decades, kids just haven't been able to receive.
Yeah.
And I saw a video today and really spoke to me is how kids spell love is T-I-M-E, time. And I'm like, yes, that's what's missing is that. And then we're trying to make money. But all they're asking for is just, please give me time. That's how I see the love. And that's how we receive and how we're able to receive. But we often block that off. So we just give and don't know how to receive. Well, that was freaking cool. So let me ask you the last 2 questions. So my first question is, how do you want to change the world or challenge the world doing what you do?
This is what I said. If everyone would just, not everyone, just a minuscule amount of the world population would just adopt HIT and be honest and transparent with themselves, the world would change from within. And so no one would have to tell anyone what to do. No one would have to tell it, hey, you have to do this, because you know what to do because it's right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Stephen lives. It's just, I love it. Like you start businesses without any knowledge. All you do is just like, I'm going to be honest with myself. I don't know how the hell to do that. I'm going to be transparent, but I'm going to be integrity with myself. I know I can do it. Yeah. Love it. Absolutely.
Because it's all based on people.
Yeah.
I know one thing. I can connect to anybody. If I can connect to anybody, The business is a sideshow.
Cool. Unless your intuition goes, no, stay clear of that one.
Yeah, of course. Then you're like, nope, no sideshow.
Run, Stephen, run.
Run, yeah.
Run, Forrest, run. Cool, mate.
Yes, I have to run, right?
If you can fill in these 3 values of my own, and I'd like to hear your version of them by filling in the blanks. So, creativity for you.
We have a test now or what? Okay.
No, not at all. Creativity for you is?
I don't like things on the outside, so it's always on the inside. Cool. I think creativity is completely letting go. Just completely letting go and being.
It's like Einstein says, knowledge is actually worthless. It's imagination because it takes you everywhere.
I just saw that yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday. I just saw that.
Oh my God.
For the first time ever.
What?
Yesterday.
Oh,
that's crazy.
So cool.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, knowledge takes you from A to B, but imagination takes you everywhere.
It's funny because I have a speech that I gave. It's on YouTube. I said, this here will take you to the place you want to be. This here will get you over the edge. That's exactly what I said. And I never heard that before. So it's funny. It's exactly what you just said. Crazy.
History always repeats itself in a different version.
Amen.
What,
are you saying I'm Einstein?
Well, you never know. Reincarnated. We never know. Parts of it.
No, I'd rather be somebody else.
As well. Oh my God. So wisdom for you is?
Knowing who you are 100% without a doubt. That's true wisdom.
Passion for you is?
Giving.
Ooh, that's a good one. Dude, thank you so much for being with us here on the No Name Brad podcast.
Most certainly my absolute pleasure. Probably the most fun I've ever had on a podcast.
Oh, damn, dude.
Yeah.
That's so freaking cool.
Awesome. Yes.
And you'll find out more about Steve in the show notes, all his links, social media, groups, favorite quotes, favorite book, where you can find him. Yeah, you can hook up with him.
Yep.
I will definitely have him back on the show again because it was so much fun and we can definitely go on forever. We're one of those people that can just...
Yes, and we need to talk about ayahuasca, San Pedro, and the spiritual journey of the humble man.
Oh my God, yes, we'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being with us here today and have an awesome day further.
Thank you so much, you too.
Thank you everyone for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dang, that was just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I enjoyed having you on board, and please do me and you a favor. Head on over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Click subscribe, and a super bonus, leave your review and you stand a chance of being announced and advertised on the show. I'm always striving to ensure that your brand is uplifted and empowered. Remember, done is better than perfect. So be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and send in your feedback too. You're the absolute best. Keep rocking.